Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan battle video. In this video we are going to be taking a look at the Extreme Z area that has recently been added into Dbz Dokkan battle for the kind of cooler movie units. I don't actually know what basis they're putting all these units under, but yes, there's been a new Extreme Z area for the fight battle for the strongest in the universe. I guess it counts because they all awaken from that event, but yeah, basically we're going to go through everything you need to know to fully Extreme Z awaken your characters. Now in the top right hand corner there will be a link to the videos to the story events you need to kind of tackle to get to this point, and this event will unlock once you have fully completed those two events, or those three events I should say. There's a limited character roster. For the first stage you have to use Goku and Gohan, second stage you have to use TEQ Cooler, and the third stage you have to use Strength Metal Cooler, but the units you build around that are all up to you. There is a limited roster, so you can only select from those characters, but there's quite a large one because of obviously the fact that every single Metal Cooler has been included. Now overall, their Extreme Z Awakenings actually look pretty interesting. I think these are some pretty good Extreme Z Awakenings. Goku and Gohan I think look very good. I think the TEQ Cooler looks pretty good as well, and I think Strength Metal Cooler maybe doesn't look the best. He's probably the least impressive in terms of units, but overall I think they all look relatively solid, and we will talk about them obviously as we go along. Now this Extreme Z area battle or fight for the strongest in the universe is obviously necessary for the legendary tickets currently, but if you are taking this event on outside of the legendary ticket period, it is just for the awakening currently for these three units. So obviously if you do want these units you can go out, farm them from the event, and then Extreme Z awaken them. If you're obviously not that interested in them, then there's no real need for you to kind of invest in them. Goku and Gohan look pretty good. Obviously they were a bonded parent and child category lead of 77%. They basically become a bit of an evasion unit that can then exchange into a guard based unit, which I think is pretty interesting and could be very good. Then you have a unit like Cooler. Cooler is just a straight up support essentially, but a very strong one. He supports 30%, which is great. He gives 3 ki, which is great. He also gives 7% crit chance after he's received 5 or more attacks in battle, which may seem unlikely, but considering he's a unit built for long events, that's actually not so bad. And then finally we have the Strength Metal Cooler, probably the weirdest one out of the bunch. We'll talk about them separately. Missions are pretty straightforward, completing each stage 7 times. And as I mentioned before, you're going to need to finish the story events. The fight for 10 billion warriors, the fight battle for the strongest in the universe, where you can obviously pick up Goku Gohan and awakening medals for Cooler and for the Metal Coolers and Goku Gohan, and then obviously the strongest rivals, which is where you pick up TEQ Cooler. So I have covered all of these events sufficiently. I did leave them in the top right hand corner, but you'll need to finish all 3 of those events to unlock this Extreme Z area. Now when it comes to making your team, they have fortunately changed the presentation, so you only have the options that are limited for the stage. For the first round, you have to have the physical Goku and Gohan unit. I'm going to build a team relying on no Prime Battle LRs, just as a way to essentially show you it can be done. But if you do have any of the Prime Battle LRs, I would suggest using the Strength First Form Freezer. Then obviously I would suggest using pretty much any available Prime Battle LR. Obviously the stats are great here because you're running under such a low leader skill, but the nice thing about Freezer is he is a 70% superclass lead as well. Not sure why, but he is, and that does help you out because the only friend lead you can take in any of these stages is the physical Cooler movie Goku, who is a 70% all types lead. So obviously, just as kind of a preface, if you do have Prime Battle Freezer, that is your best bet to go down. Now of course, as you guys know, in terms of these events, honestly speaking, the best bet is to rotate the paths you take. So you want to take the left hand side and then you want to take the right hand side. On the first difficulty, the left hand side will be bronze medals, the right hand side will be silver medals, and on the second difficulty it will be gold on the left hand side and rainbow on the right hand side. For all of these units you are going to need exactly 15 bronze, silly me, 40 silver, 30 gold and 30 rainbow. I'm going to repeat that again. That is 15 bronze, 40 silver, 30 gold and 30 rainbow. Now, as a reminder, you do have a chance to get question marks. If you see a question mark, that question mark will give you bonus medals of a random type. Could be bronze or silver on the first stage, could be gold or rainbow on the second. Because I advise you to rotate, it is the reason of the question marks. So, because a question mark can randomly spawn as any type of medal, by rotating you kind of guarantee or you reduce the chance that you are going to pick up extra of a certain type. So for example, let's say you've only picked up bronze the entire time and you've done 3 runs on the bronze side. You might see a question mark on the 4th turn or the 4th attempt and you end up with bronze, and then you've just got extra bronze medals. So ideally you want to rotate because of the fact that question marks can spawn at any given time. Now the teams for the second and third stage are a lot easier because you can just build full metal cooler teams. If you want to be pedantic, you can remove the AGL metal cooler from the stage against the TEQ Cooler, and then in the third stage against the strength cooler you can remove the physical metal cooler and replace them with the AGL one. That'll be the best bet for you. Now of course, as you guys should hopefully know by now, you're going to have to re-attempt the stage a couple times. So in terms of total medals, as I've explained, 15 bronze, 40 silver, 30 gold, 30 rainbow, you are going to need to do each side of each stage 3 times. So that means 6 total attempts on the first stage and 6 total attempts on the second stage. Which means in total, that's going to be 12 attempts per character, 6 on each stage, which means a total of 36 attempts, without factoring in that you should hopefully get question marks at some point. Now, if you get lucky, well, generally speaking, you get at least 1 question mark per 6 rounds. So generally speaking, I say work on 10. Sometimes you can get unlucky though. So you need to do 3 turns on the left hand side, you need to do 3 turns on the right hand side. That's it. Once you've done that, you'll have all the medals you need from that respective difficulty, and you can move on to the next difficulty of the stage. Now, another tip that I highly advise is to finish off each respective character. So start with Goku and then finish Goku all the way up to the end of his awakening, and then start with the next character. This is generally to stop you getting confused. It's also generally so that you can have stronger units with which to take on the other stages. At least that's what I kind of see out of it. So I highly suggest that you do that. I think it will suit you the best. Now obviously we've spoken about how to do the stage, how many times you have to do the stage, and everything like that. There is no way to improve your bonus here. You cannot use boosts either. So this is entirely based on clearing it and stamina. Now unfortunately, when you reattempt the stage, you will have the option to auto battle. These teams that I'm showing you do work on auto battle. They do not lose. So you shouldn't have any problems. Generally speaking, you should be more than good to go. Alright. So yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know. Obviously I will show you guys the second difficulty and everything like that. So we'll talk. Well, you can see that the teams still function. I do change the first team slightly. I do introduce Prime Metal Frieza. The main reason is just for cohesion between the team. The previous one was excluding a lot of units from the leader skill, whereas using Frieza does make things a bit easier. Now obviously if you don't have Frieza, your next best bet is going to be to run with the first team. both will still work. I tried both out. I'm just showing alternatives for players who are obviously possibly interested in running either team. But the other two teams, for the TEQ Cooler stage and for the Strength Metal Cooler stage, they will still function exactly the same. I make no changes whatsoever to either of them. So yeah, obviously you'll see now that I do a little time skip, jump across and just kind of show where we're at, and then we obviously proceed from there with completing the second difficulty. In terms of the second difficulty, what I can suggest is that you obviously awaken the characters before you take on the stage. The additional stats, health, and damage that they do will obviously help you out quite a bit. Now, in terms of Goku and Gohan, or Gohan into Goku, I think they're a pretty good unit. So obviously the leader skill's kind of semi-irrelevant, but super attack wise, they raise defense 1 turn, they seal super attack, which is good utility. Attack and defense of 150% plus an additional attack and defense of 30%, and a great chance of evading, which is 70%, enemy attacks for 5 turns from the start of turn. They then have a high chance starting from the 6th turn. They also have an additional attack and defense of 50% starting from the turn in which they evade their 3rd attack. So that's all pretty good. They start off a little bit stronger, but then they don't necessarily get that much weaker, because they gain 50% attack and defense after evading a 3rd attack, and they only lose 20% evasion, and they still have up to 50% remaining. So still a pretty good unit actually. They then have an exchange skill, which can be activated after the character evades 6 or more enemy attacks, or when HP is 59% or less. Once this occurs, you can exchange into Goku. You'll recover 50% HP. This is very good because the Goku's family team for a long time has had a lack of healing. So the fact that you can now heal is pretty helpful for Goku family teams, movie hero teams. Not saying these guys are gonna rock their way onto the team, but bringing a heal is a certified way to make them usable in a lot of ways. Attack and defense of 180% once Goku, guarding all attacks when HP is 77% or more, stunning the attacked enemy, and an additional attack and defense of 59% for 5 turns after receiving an attack. It's pretty good. Not to mention they also have an additional super attack of medium chance when they are facing a terrifying Conqueror's enemy. So these guys could be very useful in the Wicked Bloodlines red zone. Then we have the TEQ Cooler, a very simple unit who's just very good. On the face of things, attack of 150%, defense of 100%. He gets 20% defense with each super attack performed. He also raises defense on his super attack. He gives terrifying Conqueror's category allies 30% attack and defense in 3 key. And he also gives them 7% crit chance after he's received 5 or more attacks in battle. Very simple unit, very simple overall. His link set's pretty strong. The only shame is that he doesn't have big bad bosses. Instead he has Cold Judgment. That's probably the only downside to him as a unit. But otherwise, very simple and very useful unit. He's going to be a great free-to-play support to really bring some good synergy to some of the Wicked Bloodlines, terrifying Conquerors teams that are currently floating around. So those hybrid kind of teams that need a little bit of support, Cooler's going to be a pretty solid one, especially for longer form events where you're going to be facing a lot of units. I think he's going to look pretty solid, at least on the face of things. Then the Strength Metal Cooler, probably the weakest EZA of the bunch. And the reason being is he raises extreme class allies attack and defense by 30% for 1 turn on his super. This is good. The issue being he has attack and defense of 150% only, and gains 50% attack and defense when attacking. So it's a little bit weird. His support is great. Wicked Bloodlines, category allies, 30% attack and defense, and 10% crit chance is always awesome. And he also launches an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super attack when all allies have Metal Cooler in their name. This is not bad in essence. Obviously they want you to kind of run a free-to-play Metal Cooler team, but generally speaking this is not terrible. It's just having a unit, usually units that raise allies attack and defense are generally very good in the 1st or 2nd slot. This cooler could essentially function in the second slot, and I guess in theory he could work pretty well with other units, but a lot of the other great coolers are already called Metal Cooler. So running this guy alongside anyone but the other type Metal Coolers is a little bit of a hindrance, just in terms of his overall build. He's an interesting one to see, and he could definitely still be a very, very good unit, and I think he could still be someone that could be interesting to use. But I think, you know, overall he still looks pretty good. He'll have limited usability, but that usability could still be pretty solid. Especially the support, the 10% crit chance. It may not help you in maybe red zone or super duper duper hard content, but for players who are still in the area of struggling with, you know, LGE, LGE GT, things like that, this guy can definitely still help you out a lot. And he also does have a decent enough link set. You know, he does have some pretty strong links. He's not necessarily a bad unit per se. He's just a unit that I think, you know, needs a little bit of TLC to really show where he lies on the spectrum of things. But with that being said, I think he's still relatively solid overall, and I think, you know, I wouldn't look down on him. I think his build is probably the wonkiest out of the three, but the other two look very, very good. And this guy could be very solid, especially now that we have confirmation of the 200% Wicked Bloodlines lead. He could be a nice filler option to really just kind of flow around and really beef up your team, which may not sound exactly thrilling, but I think could be very good. I think could be very, very good overall. So yeah, that's all these second difficulties, and that's pretty much everything you need to know. I've covered absolutely everything you need to know about the Extreme Z area. There shouldn't be anything else that you guys are struggling with. If you are struggling with something, just leave a thought in the comments and I will get to you and I'll help you out. Just as a heads up, when you do finally fully Extreme Z Awakening these units, please remember that you need to have a second copy at SA 5 so you can train it into them to max out their SA. Otherwise you're going to not be able to max them out. But that's it from me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. So until then, take care, stay safe, and yeah, if you got any queries, guys, please just leave a comment down below. But cheers and bye.